So a great strategy for expanding beyond one-to-one reinforcement is a token board. So a token board is just a visual representation of how much work is done, how much is left, how close the student is getting to what they're working for, and it includes what they're working for. This doesn't have to be fancy. You all have probably seen some version of a token board, or sometimes we call it a penny board if we're using pennies as a token. It can be made with a piece of paper and some Velcro. A laminated piece of cardstock with Velcro works fantastic, and that's a great place to start. You can make it work for you. So I'm just going to go through real quick how a token board works, and then we'll go through some ideas of getting beyond pennies even and further into it. So first of all, the student chooses what they want to work for. Let's say we're working with Tommy and he's chosen a gummy bear. So we're going to put a picture of a gummy bear on his token board so he knows that's what he's working for. Then you're going to give the student a task or a direction, like point to the letter T. When he does it, I might say something like, wow, look at how fast you found the T, penny on, and give him a penny to put on his board. And then we're going to repeat this 4 more times with whatever tasks are appropriate for this student until he's earned all 5 pennies. At first, I'm going to keep them quick and easy tasks, right? So that he can, like some of those things that we were talking about earlier, and maybe I'll incorporate it with finding the letters of his name or something else that we're working on as well. So when he's earned all 5 pennies, I say something like, look, all the pennies are on. How many do you have? And then we quickly count the pennies and give him the gummy bear. I want to caution you not to get stuck on the counting piece. It's great if the student can take the pennies off and count them to you quickly and then get the reinforcer. That's ultimately what we want, but we don't want to get stuck there. If they've already earned the reinforcer, we don't want to make counting the pennies a condition that they have to complete before they get the reinforcer that they've already earned. We want to be an honest broker. So, like I said, counting the pennies is great for cardinality, for that one-to-one correspondence, for counting, that practice. So it doesn't hurt, but that's not a requirement that they do it. Maybe you quickly count them at first when you're teaching it, or maybe you are able to point to the pennies and they take them off real quick and give them to you and you count out loud. Whatever that involvement for that student looks like, just don't get hung up on the counting, even though it's great and you eventually want to get there. And then with a token board, keep in mind the student's still getting a reinforcer after each response, but the reinforcer is now what? It's the penny, right? It's the token that they're getting. They have to earn a certain amount of tokens before they can trade them in for the really good things, the high reinforcer that they've chosen, in this case, the gummy bear. So a quick strategy that you can use if a student isn't quite ready for 5 pennies, maybe that's too many, maybe 5 tokens is too much to start with when you're teaching how to use the token board. You can use a smaller amount of tokens. We call it preloading. Maybe you put 3 pennies on the board and they earn the last 2. Or if you're starting with a student and you really think it's going to take them some time to work up to understanding the penny board, maybe you put 4 on and they earn the last 1. And then they get the reinforcer that they've chosen. Then maybe you're able to put 3 pennies on and they earn the last 2, and so on until eventually they're earning all of them. For some students, that process is going to take a little longer than for others, and that's okay. You know your students, and you're going to start where you need to have them be successful. You can always increase the amount of tokens needed as you go. Another way to increase academic endurance and build up to get to even past 5 tokens, because we don't want to stop at 5. It's a great place to be, but we want to keep going, is something like this example you see on the screen, where there are 12 boxes. It's just a simple dry erase card. They're putting smiley faces in the boxes when the students completed the task. So they're working, we're expanding that out. There's more time between that they're working for the object that they've chosen, the reinforcer. So you're extending the amount of time that they can work and the number of tokens, or in this case, it was smiley faces that they're working for. Here's another great example. This is a picture of an iPad and it's been cut into 8 pieces. And instead of earning a token, the student earns a piece of the iPad. And when the puzzle is all put together, so to speak, or the picture of the iPad is complete, they've earned their time with that item, with that iPad. And so that's something else that works really well with a lot of students. And you can cut that up. You can start with 3 pieces. You could, print a new picture and now cut it up into 5 pieces and then 8 pieces or whatever. But you can use that even to expand the amount of work that they're doing before they earn the reinforcement. And Jenny mentioned giving students choices. Sometimes we all get tired of working for the same thing, right? Over and over, and we like to have choices. I don't know about you, but I keep a few treats on my desk, keep Jolly Ranchers and mints and some different things on my desk. And I don't want it to be the same every day. Sometimes I'm looking for something different. So our students are the same. They want a variety a lot of times. Some of them do not, that there are exceptions to that rule. But often they do like a variety. And so we want to present different options for them. There are many ways to do that. It doesn't have to be fancy. The picture you see on the screen is some Ziploc baggies with little reinforcers in there. I see goldfish and raisins, maybe M&Ms. So you can use those as a choice. But also one thing about that is you're prepared ahead of time. So you have the reinforcers ready to go, and that is key. These little jewelry and bead boxes work great for small edibles. You can put things like Skittles, M&Ms, pieces of gummy bears, pieces of gummy worms, marshmallows, dry cereal, and more in there. Here's an example of a choice wheel or a choice board where you can put the choices that are available, a picture of the choices that are available, and students can select from those choices. Just keep in mind that that needs to be things that are available and that you're okay with the student using at that time. If they don't have time to go swing on the swing right now, for example, then you wouldn't include that as a reinforcer if that's not one that's available in the moment. So just make sure that you switch out the pictures for what you do have. Here's an example of a box or a tub method. That works great for having the actual items that the students can go through and choose from. And we do need to rotate those items out from time to time or even from day to day, depending on your students. We can sometimes use a written list for students who can read or for older students. You could also add photos or pictures to that to transition students from pictures to a list. Just keep in mind to use something that is developmentally and age appropriate for your students as well. One note about choosing reinforcers too, we often hear things like what works during one learning session to motivate a student didn't work the next time, or that student didn't want anything badly enough to work for it. Just keep in mind what Jenny said earlier, every student has reinforcers. We just have to get creative about finding them and sometimes get creative about how we offer them to students so that we can figure out what they like and will work for.